The new Polestar 2 for 2024 has significantly more range than the 2023 version. The 2023 version had even more range than the 2022 version. You can see where this is going. Now I'm going to share with you the details of the 2023 version, and unfortunately we don't have EPA range or estimates for WLTP range yet for the 2024 version. So we'll focus on what we do have in the start of this video for the 2023 model. Then at the end, we'll look at the 2024 model. The Polestar 2. It is a direct competitor for the Tesla Model 3. It's had some changes this year to its price, performance, and range. Here's what they are. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam Evans. I'm the Electric Viking. The Polestar 2 is actually in most markets where it's on sale a direct competitor to a Tesla Model 3. I spoke of the changes to this vehicle in the Australian market, but what about in the US market? Well, there are several versions this year. You have a single motor, which is front-wheel drive, a dual motor, and an all-wheel drive model. There's also a performance version, which costs an additional $5,500. You get a performance pack, which I'll detail in a minute. And there's a limited BST edition called the BST 270 and the BST 280. If you're in Europe, the details are a bit different. The Polestar 2 is different in Europe, so basically take this with a grain of salt. There are some similarities, but there's also some differences. In the United States, there's two versions. Both come with a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack. So the battery pack is bigger, a fair bit bigger than, say, the cheapest Tesla Model 3. The standard Polestar 2 comes with a 170 kilowatt, which is around about 240 to 250 horsepower electric motor, and it does 0 to 60 miles an hour in 7 seconds. The dual motor version, called the BST 270, has 300 kilowatt or nearly 500 horsepower and can do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 4.5 seconds. So that's more like the competitor to the Tesla Model 3 Performance. Now, of course, the Tesla Model 3 Performance is much, much faster than that. It'll do 0 to 60 in around about 3.2 seconds. However, you can get even more power. You can get 350 kilowatts, so more than 500 horsepower with the BST 230 edition. That one's a bit faster. It'll do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 4.2 seconds. Now, why is this slower than a Tesla Model 3 when it has similar power? Well, it's quite a bit heavier. In fact, all Volvo and Polestar cars are heavier than their equivalent Tesla variants. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, just pointing this out in case you're curious and you're thinking, well, this is strange. I mean, if it's got that much power, why doesn't it do the sort of performance that a Model 3 does? Well, that's the main reason. Now, if you already have the dual motor standard version, you can pay more money. You can pay an additional $1,200 to increase the power of your car from 300 kilowatt to 350 kilowatt, or from around about 450 horsepower to 500 horsepower. Pretty good deal, actually, $1,200 US. So what about range? Well, the range starts at 247 miles in the shorter range version, and it's 270 miles in the single motor version. The Polestar 2, the cheapest version, with a single front motor, has 270 miles of range. That's 434 kilometers. Surprisingly short amount of range considering the size of the battery pack being, a fairly big battery pack and it being a single motor version. But anyhow, that's the range. Now, if you get the dual motor version, that also comes with the same size wheels, 19-inch wheels. It has 260 miles of range or 418 kilometers. So the punishment for getting a dual motor version, surprisingly, is only 10 miles of range. It's normally a bigger difference than that. I'm not sure why the difference is so small. So that means you get 418 kilometers or around about 18 kilometers less range with the dual motor version. That is an increase, though, of 11 miles versus the previous version. So if you got the 2022 version, you were thinking, my range is less than that. That's because the 2022 model had 249 miles of range with the two motors, and the newer version has 260 miles of range. So somehow Polestar been able to unlock more range from the car. If you get the dual motor version with the performance pack with the 20-inch wheels, Polestar says it has the same exact range as the 19-inch wheel version. Now, I find that hard to believe because that would be the only car in the world that has the same range when you put bigger wheels on it. So maybe they just haven't tested that model yet. However, the BST edition, which is also the upgraded performance model, 20-inch wheels as well, probably gives us the accurate range here, because that model has 247 miles of range, which is 397 kilometers. So as you can see, put on those 1-inch bigger wheels, you're getting less range, around about 20 kilometers less range with the bigger wheels. So as you can see, the single motor version, as is always the case, lighter, gets the most range here, 270 miles, meaning it has almost exactly the same range as the standard cheapest version of the Tesla Model 3, which right now in the US costs around $39,000 US for inventory stock. There's inventory stock all over America. So basically the price is $39,000 US for the Tesla Model 3 base version. And it does qualify for a $3,750 incentive. How does that compare to the base version of the Polestar 2? The single motor Polestar 2 starts at $48,400 US plus a $1,400 destination charge. So basically it's around about $9,000 US more expensive than a Model 3 in the base version. But the biggest issue here is that because it's imported, it doesn't qualify for the tax incentive of $3,750 that the Model 3 does qualify for, meaning it actually ends up costing around about $12,500 more than the cheapest Model 3. What about the price for the model up from that, the dual motor version? Well, the dual motor version only costs an additional $2,500. It's $51,900 US. Tesla don't really have a comparable vehicle to that one because the range is vastly different. But in terms of price, the closest competitor that Tesla have in terms of price is the Model 3 long range. That has a range of 325 miles versus the range of the Polestar dual motor, which has a range of 260 miles. So around about a 65-mile range difference, but the price is different again as well. The Tesla Model 3 long range is $47,000 so around about $4,000 cheaper. But once again, the Model 3 does qualify for the $3,750 incentive, meaning the price difference is quite a bit bigger than it sounds. You're looking at nearly an $8,000 price difference between those two cars. Now, this is not me telling you to buy the Tesla car. I'm just giving you some context here on the competition for Polestar. And many people believe that the Polestar 2 has some advantages over the Tesla. It's unique, looks different. I mean, basically, it's a car that people will say, hey, what's that? I haven't seen one of those before. That looks different. It's interesting. The only thing here is, though, that the closest competitor to the Tesla Model 3 long range in terms of actual performance and specifications that come standard is the Polestar 2 dual motor with performance pack and 20-inch wheels, which has less range again, costs $58,600, so about a $13,800 difference in price after the incentives are factored in. A pretty big difference in price. Then you've got the Polestar 2 dual motor BST edition 270 with 21-inch wheels. That one costs $75,500. If you step up to the premium, most expensive model, Polestar 2, that one is the BST edition 230. That actually comes in at a price of $80,900. Pretty close to the price of a Tesla Model S, which is obviously a very, very different car in terms of range and performance. So you're probably curious, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, are Polestar selling these cars, the Polestar 2? And well, you'd be right, not a lot. Polestar delivered 12,000 vehicles in the first quarter of 2023, so about 4,000 per month worldwide. That is a 26% increase year on year, and Polestar anticipates an increase in global volume of 60% year on year to approximately 80,000 sales for the entire year. To give you some context on that, Polestar delivered 51,500 cars last year worldwide, and so this year they're going for 80,000. It's still really a niche brand. You can see why that's why it might appeal to a lot of people, because it's niche, it's unusual, it's sort of like a sedan but not a sedan, and some people really love the looks of it. Now, I have heard this comment. Some people say that the Polestar 2 is bigger than a Tesla Model 3. It's closer in size to a Tesla Model Y. Not actually factually true. Yeah, the exterior, technically you could say that, but in terms of the interior space, they're very, very similar. Very, very close. And you got to keep in mind, the exterior dimensions of a car don't dictate the interior space. So when you go buying a new car, you can't just look at the exterior size, because that'd be like saying, oh, look, here's a Toyota RAV4. The exterior size is actually in some ways bigger than a Model Y. But actually, the interior space of the Model Y is significantly bigger than that of the RAV4. It's worth keeping that in mind when you cross-shop different cars between each other. The exterior dimensions are not what will dictate the interior space. It's actually the way that the car is packaged, which matters even more. One other issue that I see with the Polestar 2 is that the Pilot Pack, which is pretty similar to Tesla's Autopilot, which comes standard on Tesla vehicles, is an additional cost option. Now, there is some new data, though, that has just been released by the EPA. And this new data, or at least the EPA, claims that for the 2024 version, the ranges that I've quoted here are incorrect. Now, I'm not sure what is right and what isn't here. I'll share with you what the EPA have said. They say now that the single motor version can do 300 miles of range, and the dual motor does 270 miles. Now, both of those have the smaller wheel options, the 19-inch wheels. You get bigger wheels than that, then the range will go down. But that does make it much more competitive with cars like the Model 3 in terms of its actual range. 300 miles of range is, well, that's quite a good amount of range from the Polestar 2. So that's another thing to consider. If you want a car with 300 miles of range, definitely an option. Overall, though, I do still think it's a bit too expensive. I think probably if you can get these on a little bit of a sale, definitely worth considering. If not, I personally would look elsewhere. Those are my thoughts, though. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.